Hey everybody, it's Tim of Broken Dice bringing you a new little battle in my solo wargaming campaign. There's going to be a little siege conflict. And before we get into the dice rolling and everything, let's talk about some of the rules I'm going to use. I'm going to use some of the rules out of the new Hail Caesar book in the back, but I'm going to try to implement some different concepts than what's in the book or kind of expand on them. First off, uh, let's talk about the fighting on the walls and units. To me, what makes the most sense for this is for everyone to fight and basically use the open order formation. A lot of freedom of movement and that sort of thing while they're fighting on the walls. Uh, Units that are fighting out of the siege towers, which I do have one right there and one right over there. Okay. They will be fighting in open order as well, but they'll have some advantages. They'll be able to, as a unit, be able to use half their normal attack value. Units that are using ladders to climb over a wall can only use 1/3 of their normal combat value. And that is because there's only so many ladders and so many guys that can go up a ladder at a time. So I think it would be very unfair for everyone in the unit or the complete unit combat power to be utilized as they're fighting their way over the wall. That being said, uh, they will have the advantage of being the attacker, but the defenders inside the castle will also have all their normal advantages as well. They'll be able to congregate in one spot. They'll be able to um, fight with less penalty than those trying to climb over the wall. Plus, they get the additional saves. So it's going to be quite a tough nut to crack. Um, and personally, there's only so much room for combat, like coming out of a siege tower. So there's only so many defenders that can actually defend those people coming out of the tower. Um, just as like there's only going to be so many guys that can come down that ramp off out of a siege tower as well, or climbing over a wall over a ladder. You got one guy, or maybe you got a couple of ladders per. And I'm going to say that each of these Roman cohorts out here have a couple of ladders because they're going to be basically moving up in like a column formation. I added an awful lot of extra artillery for the Romans, a couple of heavy pieces, and then some medium, and then some light, basically to soften up the units that are on the wall already. Now, in sieges, we all know that there are many things that occur that have nothing to do with combat that can affect the outcome of a siege. Disease, desertion, sympathizers within your own rank, wanting to open the gates to the besiegers, those sorts of things. Those sorts of things are going to be handled in more of an off-table sideline. I'm not going to do too much of that. I don't want to throw everything that I'm working on right now into this one video. So basically what I've done is I roll a dice and roll a die 3 to see how many turns have transpired before we get into this assault phase of the siege. I rolled a die 3 and it came up 3. So we had 3 turns of action. That would be 3 turns of defensive shooting, 3 turns of the besiegers shooting at the wall, plus we had both a sallying out by the besieged to do some damage either to a war machine one of the artillery pieces, or one of the towers. Now, I did that, and there's certain things I like to do when I'm doing those sorts of off-table things. I take the besieging army, and I will take like part of a division out of it or a whole division out of it, and its job is to fight off the relief columns that are coming to help those that are being besieged in the castle. And that's a game that we played off table. Just a quick review: the Romans were successful in beating that unit back and not letting it get to the castle. But in doing so, it lost an allied unit of Gaelic troops and all their cavalry in the process. So that would be like if I was playing another opponent and we were taking this from the very beginning and running a very long siege game. Might come back to haunt the Romans later on because there would be no cavalry for them to automatically put back into the field. Yeah, it was really crazy dice rolling. But anyway, and then to play a sally out game. Where were there a sally out game? What am I talking about? When they sally out of the castle. What I like to do is use a modified version of the shield wall rules. Kind of a smaller scale skirmish type where you have sentries. Like this would happen at night or very early in the morning, trying to catch the Romans off guard. Historically, this happened many times. Uh, and so they would want to do is sneak out, attack like a siege tower, put it on fire, damage it somehow to where it couldn't be used in the siege. And really, the work involved in building one of these and getting it into place, and so you just don't replace that labor and material all at once, and so it would be very difficult. So I played a small little game, like a small skirmish game. Um, the Romans were successful in keeping the siege tower from being destroyed, but it took enough damage to where it's going to be reduced. It can't move the first turn of our siege because it's still like damaged and they're having to repair it. So in the second Roman turn, they'll be able to use the siege tower. That's over here to my left. You can see the red little poker chip in front of it. That indicates how many turns it's down until it can be used. Um, so I think that's all the sort of preamble stuff I need to put in here to where I think we're all caught up. Like I said, the relief column was defeated, so it wasn't able to assist the castle. The bring in supplies, so disease won't be a factor later on in the siege, and the defenders were able to sally out and prevent the siege tower from reaching the walls. Probably in the next 2 or 3 turns, because you can only move one turn with one of those. So it's getting them up that hill and getting them involved. So that delay might be very beneficial. So in the shooting that took place during those 3 turns that has happened before this assault turn begins, there was damage done both ways. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. A lot of the troops in the towers took damage. Several of the Romans that are not currently basically behind the siege tower, they get that cover. The ones with just the ladders, they took most of the damage. One unit, right down here, took 4 points of damage from shooting. Now, you say, well, how did they take damage from shooting? Well, I gave the defenders, for every tower that they have what I would call light artillery, like a Scorpion or something, because it was a very common siege weapon. Maybe not based strictly on the Roman design, but more of the Greek design, because, like I said, this part of our campaign is all in that Mediterranean side of the Iberian Peninsula, heavily influenced by Greek culture and Greek trade and stuff. So I would assume that their weapons of war had been adopted by, especially the more civilized Iberian. Civilized? That's a cruel thing to say. The more the ones that have been influenced more by Greek culture and war making strategies and those and castle building and defensive walls and stuff like that. I think they would have operated where they would have at least, they may have not had them carried around in their field army, but I would assume they would have had them in their defensive fortifications. And as you can tell, this is the only defensive fortification I own. It may not be exactly era specific, but I'm going to utilize what I've got. So I think we're all caught up, all the shooting damage and everything. So we're going to roll for the Romans' turn to begin the assault. And we'll probably do another round of shooting or two. And let's see. Oh, and one other thing. The defenders in the castle, the defensive position, are going to be allowed to shoot in every shooting phase, theirs and the Romans. It just seems more appropriate because that's really how they're going to defend this rather than defending the walls and stuff. I think it would, they're set up for shooting. They have all their supplies right there. They don't have to do anything extra, but just load and shoot. Where the Romans, they're a little further away with their big stuff, which, you can see where they're going to be shooting not as often. And the Scorpions themselves they're just an add-on. So let's get into this. Let's roll, and we're going to start moving our troops and see what goes on. All right, we passed the orders for movement all the way around the table. There was no failures. But most troops only moved one, except for this unit right down here. They moved 3 moves, and they are at the wall, ready to assault. The rest of them made 1 move. The siege tower to the right, you can see it coming into the picture here, made a move. Most of the rest of the moves were like 1 or 2 moves, and most of it was just 1 move. So kind of slow on the start, and then the siege tower that's off to the left has another turn. It's going to have to wait. It'll be able to move next turn. It couldn't move this turn, and so then it'll be able to move. Now we're going to do Roman shooting and the Iberian shooting from the towers, and we will be right back and we'll go over some damage results. Okay, as you can see, the Roman artillery did a stellar job between the shooting that happened before this assault phase and this last one. They've done some serious damage to those guys on the walls, which wasn't uncommon for Roman ballistae and Scorpios and onagers and stuff. The boys were quite accurate. And they always usually had a large number of them firing away, keeping people's heads down anyway. But the Iberians, to their credit, did some damage back, did a few points of damage. So nobody broke, nobody had to take any tests. So we're going to go on to, obviously, those in the castle are not sallying out against this being outnumbered so greatly. So they're going to hunker down behind the walls, and we go into the second Roman turn. All right. The Romans must have really taken umbrage to all the shooting that they were taking. So, yeah, they passed their orders by quite a bit. And being drilled, those that failed, like this unit over here on that side, they were able to make 1 move, which allowed the siege tower to move 1 move, which it can only move 1 move anyway, and the other unit to get fairly close to the wall. these two units, because you haven't seen them yet, because I've been videoing from the other side of the table. This unit here, these two units have made it to the wall, and then you can look off to the left and see another unit using its scaling ladders. Basically, my guys are magnetized to these long, narrow bases, so it kind of looks like they're going up a ramp or something anyway. So that's what we're going to do. So we're going to be getting into some combats now, and let's see what happens. Well, this certainly didn't go the way the Romans were envisioning it. Well, I just say in parts. On this back side, which would be the north side of the castle, one Roman unit took damage and broke from combat. It's a good thing the Romans have 2 extra cohorts to bring into the fight, but the one cohort is now stranded, fighting, trying to get over that wall. As you can see on the other side, other units have taken some damage but are still in the fight themselves. Let's go take a look at the south part. Obviously the siege towers aren't there yet. So let's take a look at the south part of the castle, as the Romans had far more success over on that side. All right, so let's talk about what happened on this side of the table. The Roman cohort on the ladders, they were able to inflict some damage. The break test for the Iberians was a disaster. They fell back in disorder into the courtyard. They were allowed in the rules to either go towards one of the towers or into the courtyard. So as this is a solo game, like always, I roll a dice to see what happens. Now, I tend to normally play the Iberian side in this, and I kind of rolled the dice to see where they would go, and these guys have fled into the courtyard, which automatically makes them disordered. And down here at the bottom, the battering ram has done 3 damage to the main gate. I feel in this instance we're going to use this as if the gate is like a unit. You just roll to see if you hit it, and it's got just a 4+ save, and you just accumulate damage. And once you get to 12 damage, it busts open and the gate's opened. Yeah. The Romans are in a position to have a lot of javelins thrown at them, but they tend to brush that stuff off fairly easy, the ones on the wall. So they have had some success and some not so successful rolls. Yeah, so this next shooting phase ought to be very interesting, I would think. The reserve for the Romans will come on. I guess I'm going to bring one of them in to replace the one that broke. That's a disaster, really. So let's move on to this next turn, and let's see what happens. All right, normally I just take units off, but this is important. So as you can see, the unit that was on the wall, it got shot at by the 2 small Catrate units that were in the tower. They took enough damage to become shaken. Therefore, they tested, they broke, and they fled. So that's 2 cohorts down for the Romans. It's a good thing they got 2 in the wings, although they are not full strength. Hopefully at the end of this and the next turn, they'll be on the table and be able to assist in the upcoming assaults. So here, I'm going to go ahead and take that unit off the table. That brings us to the end of the shooting, so we need to do a couple of combats, and then we go back to Roman turn to start moving again. Okay, let's talk about what's happened in this phase so far. Shooting, like I said, that one Roman unit broke in the last shooting phase. In the orders phase, let's move this down a little bit. You can see where this Roman unit has come onto the table. On the back side, you can kind of see at the top of the wall, just beyond the other unit Roman cohort has come onto the table. These were 2 units that survived the battle to stop the relief column. So now they're on. So all the Roman units that are available are now on the table. We need to. We already did some more shooting. Nobody has been shaken yet from the artillery from the Romans yet, but it's getting really close with some of the smaller units that are on the table. Although I think them getting that one unit to break and flee from the wall was sound and solid performance by them. So no, we fought another round of combat. Nothing really happened. So now we're going back into the Roman order phase to see if we can get these new units to move on to the table and begin their assault to help out those beleaguered troops and try to get these siege towers up so some of those slingers can start throwing their sling stones and start getting some more Romans over that wall. All right, let's roll some dice and we'll come back and see what happens. All right, a lot went on in this shooting phase. Oh my goodness. The Romans took units to Shaken in 3 of the 4 towers. Not good. One of them actually abandoned their position. I put them down in the courtyard and they retreated in disorder. So not only are they shaken, they are disordered. So they're basically useless right now. And because of that, I don't allow that tower to shoot now because it has no unit. The other 2 were able to hold their ground even though they're shaken. In the orders phase, though, for the Romans, it turned out far worse. Down here at the bottom, I rolled an 11, so they didn't move. And the unit way over there on the other side of the table by the backdrop, you can just see them sneaking out there from the tower. I rolled for their orders and rolled a blunder. And then I rolled a 1. So I don't see them just running off the table from that, but maybe becoming disordered or moving back and away. And yeah. And so as the Iberians shot, as in concert with the Romans shooting, because in my mind at a siege like this, it's just like this ongoing process of counter shot. They shot at them, they did a damage. Plus they already had 2 damage on them from the fight before when they were part of the unit that stopped the relief column. And then you take a damage when you roll a 1. So their penalty is I will make a judgment that they're going to be disordered, and so therefore they're going to have to wait till the end of their next turn before they can, the Roman turn, before they can be given orders. The rest of the shooting, like the slingers that are elevated above the defensive walls, they kind of take away the save that those units would normally get, and they were able to inflict a little damage. It's looking pretty bleak over here on the right for the Iberians. My boys are taking now shooting from the slingers. The Romans are slowly grinding them away. They're 1 point away from being shaken, and boy, that you know how that goes. It's just a cascade of poor things, and the Roman unit that's pushing the siege tower has not even gotten there yet. The Iberians, obviously, they have retaken the top of the wall. over the gate, but and they're throwing their javelins down, but the Romans have done 6 points of damage already to that wall. Another good couple of turns, and they'll be through that gate. So it's looking pretty bleak right now. The big shooting from the Roman artillery is going to be dwindling down here because can't shoot into your own units like that once they're on the table. So I've been targeting just the towers and stuff that are unengaged, and that's why a lot of the Iberians in the towers have become shaken. Let's go ahead and we're going to do some more combat, and we'll see what the dice tell us. Well, at the end of this phase, not much happened other than if you look to the kind of the top left in the photo, you can see that that unit has fallen back from the wall. It's been fighting on that wall since turn 2, or well, actually would have been turn 5, but yeah, they gave ground in good order. So next turn they can go right back at them, but it's getting close. It's going to be really interesting this next turn. The orders. Both siege towers are close enough on their initiative. The Roman troops being drilled, they're going to make their move anyway. They're going to get there. This commander on the left is going to have to order that unit back into combat. The unit down here on the let's see, the bottom left of your screen, it's still disordered because one, it rolled a blunder, and I just feel like it would take it a while to get completely organized back to make an assault. And we've done another point of damage to the gate, which was kind of disappointing. Like I said earlier, in the last turn, that unit, the other unit, reserve unit, came on, and it failed its orders to move. So we're going to go right back into orders phase, shooting, combat, and it really ought to be getting pretty tight right here for the Iberians. We are probably into turn 7 or 8. We're going to play this out until somebody breaks. Somebody actually has to break in combat here. And I think the Iberians, without that relief column coming in, it was pretty much they're just going to eventually get swamped. But that's why we roll the dice. So let's get into this next orders phase, shooting phase, combat phase, and we'll be back and we'll let you know what happened. Okay, quick look at the orders phase and movement here, right here. So as you can see, the siege towers have made it to the wall, dropping down their little gate, and now it's going to be a straight up fight between the Roman legionaries and those units behind the walls. It doesn't look good. On the very north side, up by the backdrop, that unit failed to assault the walls, so there will be no assault on that side. And the unit that failed its orders last time, that is down here. Let's move the camera down just a little bit. You can see just here on the left, they only passed their order by 1, and so they just made one move towards the castle. So now we're into some shooting. The Romans are limited to firing their siege weapons at the towers and the units that are occupying them. Other than that, there won't be much shooting at all, because the Roman slingers that are in the towers, they're basically in a support position now with the unit that's pushing the tower, so we're just going to give them their support attacks against the units that are on the wall. And it looks like this may be the turn that breaks the Iberians back. So let's do some shooting for the onagers and the ballistae and the Scorpio. And well, the Scorpios really don't have very many targets to shoot at, but what they do have to shoot at, it's pretty vulnerable anyway. So let's get that done, and then we'll come back. We'll talk about if anything significant happens there, and then we'll go into the combat. Okay, the only thing significant happened was the unit in the tower on the left that's towards the backdrop. That unit retreated in good order, so I placed them at the bottom of the tower in contact with it, but they're still in good order, so they can receive... no, they can't receive orders. You can't give them orders to charge, but they can move up into the building, I guess, to shoot. But excuse me. Now we're going to get into the combat phase, and this should really be decisive. All right, so here we bring ourselves to the end of the Roman combat phase, the Roman turn. Well, on the left here, the units have pushed the Iberians off the wall, have gained access to the wall. The Scutari on the far right, even though they're shaken, they were able to hold their ground. Rolled really high for them. Yeah, and it's a strange turn. I really thought it would just be an absolute disaster. I mean, it's pretty bad. I mean, the Romans have taken a wall, but they're also got a lot of units that aren't engaged yet, and they haven't got a unit that has come through the gate yet. So this next Iberian phase ought to be interesting. I'm not sure what we're going to do. I can't vacate the wall to take it, to go into the tower. Interesting. Interesting indeed. If the Romans get another wall section and start or come through that gate, I think that'll be the end of it. But yeah, what is going to be the Iberian response here? Yeah, I think we're going to reoccupy the two towers. And then try to hold on to the courtyard because we can't seem to, well, they're disordered now, so they'll have to wait to the end of the turn, the units that's disordered. And let's do a rally. I could do a rally. That would be interesting. I think we'll do that. We'll try to rally that unit there. So that's what's going to happen there. Then we'll do some Iberian shooting and see if we can't just slow the Romans down with some javelins to the face. All right, guys, we're back into the combat phase. Well, I'm going to handhold this camera and move around a little bit because it's things that need to be seen. Well, that Iberian unit that's on the wall to the right, they're shaken, and they rolled a 10 again to hold their position. They only lost the combat by 1. They are tenacious in holding on to their turf. The Roman cohort that was in combat with them, they became shaken, so they had the test, and they gave ground in good order. Like I said, on the back side there, over on that side, you can see that earlier on that Roman court did not make it to the wall, or they'd gotten back. So that'll be this next turn they failed their orders. That's what it was. They failed their orders, and so now the next turn maybe they can make it to the wall. A lot of shaken units for the Iberians, but they're inside a castle, so I don't see them just jumping up and running off. So they're there for the duration. Let's move this camera around this way to give you a different little angle of what's going on. Yeah, the Romans are on here, so their next move. Here's a question. Moving down into the courtyard as the Roman player, from the wall, would that disorder them? That's an interesting question because the defenders, if they give ground and move into the courtyard, they're automatically disordered. So would the Romans moving off the wall also become disordered? Or do we need to roll to see if they become disordered? That's an interesting question. Or perhaps they charge into. Either way, they got to go through a corridor or downstairs or something. That they wouldn't be in a fighting formation to do that. That's interesting. That's an interesting question. I don't know. I don't know what we're going to do. Um, I assume they would go down into the courtyard as like basically everyone in open order, like I decided on the walls, but perhaps coming off the wall they count as in open order. Yeah, we'll do that. That seems to make more sense that they'd already be in open order, and the guys in the courtyard are in open order, so I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal either way. Um, so it'll be open order on fighting open order units. One good, funny thing happened that those slingers over here in this tower, they took 3 points of damage in the shooting phase. They normally don't have any sort of a morale save, so I gave them a 2 morale save for being up there behind cover, and they just still wound up taking 3 points of damage, which I thought was absolutely hilarious. All right, uh, the Roman turn. Yeah, this ought to be interesting. So let's get to the Roman orders, Roman shooting, some combat, and see if these Romans can't bust this gate down and move on in. That would be interesting. So let's get on with some dice rolling here, and I'll be back in just a second. All right, all the shooting's been done, the orders have been done. Now it's time to do a little combat. Uh, Roman shooting was bupkis this time around. Um, at least in the orders phase, they got, you know, something to happen. The commander, let's move the camera a little bit this direction. Over there on the right with the cohort with the blue shields, he did a rally order for them. That brought them back down to just to 5 stamina, but that means that they can actually assault the wall next turn. If there'll be any need. But as you can see in the courtyard, 2 units. This could really be the game because the Roman the Roman unit is at 5 stamina. The Iberian unit with the commander in it is at 4 stamina. Now, there's really no I don't see a charge bonus being applied for the Romans because they had to come down off the wall. They can't use their pilum. So it's just going to be a straight up fight with these units. It'll be very interesting. Basically, it'll come down to the extra stuff that the commander gives the Iberians and the Roman armor save. That'll be interesting to see. Down here towards the front of the gate, should be able this turn to be able to knock that gate down. I only need 3. Last turn I didn't do any damage to it at all, and got a little shooting damage for me. And then this one unit that was in the reserve, it finally made a move towards the wall, maybe a little too late. But if the Iberians can hold on here, they've still got all 4 towers and 3 out of the 4 walls are still held by them, which I really didn't think would happen. So we're going to do this combat phase, and then I'll be right back. Okay, well, um, yeah, terrible, terrible, terrible news. The Iberians have taken it on the chin, horribly so, and the gate has been broken down. There we go. You can see that. Finally did enough damage to break the gate down. So now you've got this unit that can go through the gate. You got a unit coming behind them that can either go onto the wall or through the gate as well. We've got shaken units in the towers. We've got our Iberian commander. He's in a unit that's now shaken in the middle of the courtyard. We have Roman units on one wall. We have shaken units of Iberians in the tower. It doesn't look very good for the Iberians at this point, and I think it's going to be a matter of just mopping things up. So at this point in time, I think I'm going to call this. Let's move this camera back just a bit. Even though the north wall did not see much success at all, the Iberians there were able to keep the Romans at bay, actually breaking a cohort. I just think that it was just too much without the relief column being able to get through. There was some horrible dice rolling in that one from my point of view. In this, I thought it took this Roman unit a little too long to get through the gate, but that's there was really nothing in there, so I made the gate kind of like a unit that kind of automatically hit, but because it's fairly stout, you just had to do like double stamina on a unit to knock it down. And it started off, the Romans looked like in a couple of turns they were going to knock it down, but then, bad dice rolling and it didn't happen. So, yeah, it was an interesting little experiment. There's some things I need to clean up. Now, like I said, I use the shield wall rules from Warlord Games. It's basically written for the Viking era, Dark Ages, but I kind of modified them for the sallying out to damage the siege towers and stuff. It worked out okay. It was a fun little skirmish game on the side. The relief column, it was just more like a division on division battle. It was a small affair. You can play that on a very small table, 4x4, 4x6, and maybe even a little bit too big for that. So you want to get into it pretty quick. It was a straight up fight, kind of like a breakthrough. That old kind of scenario where I had to get units off to one side with some supplies to affect the siege. It didn't happen. It was a much tougher fight for the Romans than what I thought it was going to be. Much tougher. I mean, right here at the end, I mean, like I said, you got a cohort that's shaken in the courtyard. You've got another one that's shaken on the outside. You've got one that was shaken and had to be rallied by the army general. So yeah, it was a little tougher nut to crack than what I thought it was going to be for the Romans. I really thought that once the siege towers and everything got to the wall, and it would probably be a done deal. But going over the wall, not using the Pelham rule, not having charge bonuses and stuff like that, really, I think, kind of evened the game out quite a bit, quite a bit. I don't know if anybody else has done any of this sort of thing. If you kind of like this kind of stuff, give me a thumbs up, share it around, do that kind of stuff. But I had fun doing it. I got a buddy of mine, he's kind of interested in what I've been doing for the channel, and he's going to plan on coming over and helping me out a little bit. So that'll be fun to have somebody else's perspective, not just my own. but yeah, this one was a fun one to do. So that brings us to the end of this video. I'll have this up on the should have this up on my page here in a little while. So I don't know why I'm telling you this. This is all videotaped. You'll see it when I put it up. Wow, that was just really just this side of lunacy. I've been talking too long. Everybody stay safe, stay well, and I'll see you next time.